guys, so today we're going to start lesson 25.2 on nutrition. So our focus question here is, how can you maintain a healthy and balanced diet? We will be getting a little bit more into this diagram a little bit later on in the week, but I'm sure you get the basic idea of what it is. So we're going to get into what each one of these is anyways. So these are your vocab words. I know that you guys have used these words in your everyday life, so you're probably very familiar with what they are. Now, one of the things, we did mention this earlier when we got into evolution, and in other cases throughout this year, but a protein is basically made up of a string of amino acids. So each one of these little circles is an amino acid, and all together they make a protein. And you guys know proteins are extremely important in your body. So basically, when you eat a protein and you're digesting it, what you're doing is you are taking this long string of amino acids and breaking it into individual pieces. And then when it's broken down into individual pieces, you rearrange them to be whichever protein you want. So it's like Legos. You take in a certain structure, you break it down into its individual pieces, and then your body absorbs them and it uses them to build its own proteins. All right? So, nutrition is the process by which a person takes in and uses food, right? So when we're studying nutrition, basically what we're studying is, how can you maintain a healthy lifestyle? How can you have a balanced diet? How can you make sure that a person is getting all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that they need in order to stay healthy and alive, right? All right, and the next thing, you guys have definitely heard the word calorie before. This is on the back of every food container that you buy, and it basically tells you, a lot of people treat it as if it's just telling you, is this going to make you gain weight or is it going to make you lose weight? And in a lot of ways, this is kind of true, because having a very high calorie diet will cause you to gain weight, but it's not always the case. Some types of foods that are very high in calories, like olive oil, are actually extremely beneficial to you, while some types of food that are low in calories are actually not very good for you, because they might just make you feel hungry an hour later and then you'll just keep eating and eating. Right? So, but a calorie is not actually what makes you gain or lose weight necessarily. A calorie is just a unit that we use to measure the amount of energy in food, right? So, if a specific type of food has a lot of energy stored in it, it will have a lot of calories. And if a specific type of food has less energy stored in it, it will have less calories. The way that we measure calories is by the use of a machine called a bomb calorimeter. You can put whatever material in here and you blow it up or you burn it, and then you test the temperature of the water over time. And if the temperature rises very high, that means that the food released a lot of energy, which means that it had a lot of energy stored in it, which means that it had a lot of calories. And if you have less temperature change, that means that the food that you just burned up has less calories because it released less energy. All right, so calories present in different molecules. So these are the three types of nutrients that we're going to be talking about throughout this lesson, and then later we're going to get into vitamins and minerals. But today we're just going to talk about carbohydrates. But when we compare the three, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, we can see carbohydrates and proteins, each gram has 4 calories, so they're approximately the same. When you get into fats, however, every gram of fat has 9 calories, which means that they store a lot more energy. This is why when you have eaten a little more than what is required from your daily caloric intake, you have some of that food that is extra will get stored in your body as fat, and this is what causes you to gain weight as fat, right? And then eventually, if you decide to go on a specific type of diet, you lower your calorie intake, your body will use the energy stored in your fat to keep you happy and healthy and alive and to keep you going, right? So if you're not eating, your body will use your fat reserves. This is why fat is extremely important, and just having a small percentage of it is always important, okay? So in order to lose weight, you need to burn more calories than you consume. Now, your body burns a lot of calories regardless, just by digesting your food, by making your brain work, by beating your heart, even all of these things that you do just by sitting down all day requires energy, right? This is why even people who are sitting all day, technically, if you keep the amount of food that you're eating low, you don't always end up gaining weight, but that is obviously a very unhealthy way to live. So the way that you can lose weight in a healthy way is you can reduce the number of calories that you eat each day by eating less calories than you are burning, or you can just adopt an active and healthy lifestyle where you're moving and exercising and, just living a more active lifestyle. Sometimes this is not always the case. So for example, people who work in an office job have to sit down for long periods of the day, but if they go home and they exercise, then they can kind of balance it out. All right, so we're going to get into carbohydrates. There are simple carbohydrates, and then there are complex carbohydrates. I'm sure just by looking at the diagram, you can see the difference. A simple carbohydrate is made up of 1 unit of sugar or 2 units of sugar. These are ones that are very easily digested by your body. So for example, the type of sugar that you use in your tea and coffee, that white solid, you put it in, you mix it, it dissolves, that is called sucrose, and it is a simple carbohydrate. It is very easily digested by your body, and basically, once it goes in and it reaches your small intestine, it will start to become absorbed, and your body can start using it really quickly. Complex carbohydrates, however, need to be digested further before they can actually be used. And this is actually a pretty good thing. You can see the complex carbohydrates are made up of long chains of sugar, or they can even have branches sometimes, like in this case. All right, so as you guys can see in this picture, simple carbohydrates are like white bread, spaghetti, cereals, which are usually covered in a lot of sugar, Coca-Cola, donuts, cake, all of that. These are all examples of simple carbohydrates which you can get in your diet. Now, the biggest problem with these is that they do not really need to be digested in a very intense manner. So basically, they are a very readily available source of energy. As soon as you eat them, they get absorbed into your villi, in your small intestine, and they start to circulate through your blood. This basically means you get a lot of energy really, really quickly, and once that's gone, you will crash, right? You guys have heard of a sugar crash, where you run, you have a lot of energy, and then suddenly it's all gone, and you're tired again, or you're hungry again. So any extra sugar that your body doesn't use will get stored inside of the liver and will be used later. But basically, simple carbohydrates are a very easy source of energy that you can get, and you get them very quickly. When we get into complex carbohydrates, however, you can see that these are like fruits and vegetables and potatoes and brown bread and all of that. These ones you could probably associate more with living a healthy lifestyle or being on a diet and all of that, and that's because these are complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates, because they are such long chains of sugar and they have branches, they're difficult for us to digest, which basically means they would be digested slower, and the sugars from those complex carbohydrates would be absorbed slower. This is why it's a good idea to eat oatmeal in the morning instead of white bread or cereal. This is because certain foods, the ones that contain complex carbohydrates, your body will continue to digest them for a long period of time and slowly release sugar into your blood, which means that you'll have a good amount of energy for a long amount of time as your body is digesting them. But if you decide to eat a croissant in the morning, you will absorb all of that energy really, really quickly, and then you'll have a lot of energy, and then suddenly you'll crash because your body will have nothing left to absorb and to give you, right? That's why complex carbohydrates are basically better for you, because they digest slower and they release energy into your body slower. There are some complex carbohydrates, for example, like cellulose, which is also known as fiber. I know you guys have heard of fiber. Maybe your parents or your grandparents are always eating things that are filled with fiber. And this is because fiber helps to keep things moving in your digestive system. It's extremely important, and it's present in plants, in any type of plant material, not any type, but basically what you're seeing here. These fiber is a type of sugar, a complex carbohydrate, which you cannot digest, which basically means it goes straight through you. You will not break it down. You will not use it for energy. But this basically means that it's pushing food through your digestive system to make sure that things keep moving. And this is why, even though you can't digest kale or spinach or lettuce or take out a lot of the sugars from them, they're still extremely important to you. Without them, you will experience constipation, which I'm sure you all know what this is. Now, you guys have to remember that this is just the case for us. We can eat these, but we can't take the energy out of them because our bodies don't have the enzymes required to break down fiber. However, if you look at a cow, cows, all they eat all day is grass, but they gain a lot of weight, and that's because their digestive system contains a lot of enzymes which allow them to break down fiber, and that's why they can live on a diet full of fiber and still gain weight, while we cannot live on a diet of fiber alone. It's important to our diet, but it's not the most important thing in the world, right? You need to have a little bit of it every day, but you can't actually survive on just fruits and vegetables, depending on what those fruits and vegetables are. All right, guys, so you can go ahead and do your quiz. Good luck.